It was never supposed to happen again. They called it a mistake. Something that should have ended the first night. But it didn't. It became a pattern. A dangerous rhythm neither of them could break. Every time Kate told herself it was over, Donald Kim would appear. A look. A moment. A silence that said too much. And just like that, they were pulled back into each other's arms. Like a fire they couldn't put out. Kate tried to run. Donald tried to stay cold. But every time their paths crossed, control disappeared. And what they had was no longer something they could hide or survive. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe now for more emotional, dramatic Mafia stories that will keep you hooked till the end. Donald Kim was not a man people looked at twice. Not because he wasn't noticeable, but because they were afraid to. At 47, he carried power like a second skin. Every step he took inside his mansion echoed with authority. The guards straightened. The staff lowered their eyes. Even the air felt heavier when he walked into a room. His world was built on control. Nothing moved without his permission. Nothing happened without his knowledge. Until Kate. She had only been working at the mansion for 3 weeks when he noticed her. It wasn't her beauty, though she had plenty of that. Smooth, dark skin that seemed to glow under soft light. A natural grace in the way she moved. A quiet confidence that didn't beg for attention. No. What caught his attention was the fact that she didn't look away. The tray in her hands trembled slightly when he entered the room, but her eyes stayed on his. Not in defiance, not in fear. Just steady. As if she saw him as a man. Not a monster. Donald walked past her without a word. But that night, for the first time in years, he didn't sleep. Kate had learned early in life how to survive. You keep your head down. You do your work. You don't attract attention. That rule had kept her safe. Until it didn't. Because no matter how careful she was, she kept running into him. Donald Kim. It started small. A moment in the hallway where she stepped aside, and he didn't pass immediately. A quiet pause in the kitchen where she felt his presence before she saw him. A strange stillness that lingered whenever they were in the same space. It made no sense. Men like him didn't notice people like her. But he did. And that made everything dangerous. She tried to avoid him. Changed her schedule, took longer routes, stayed in rooms where others were present. But somehow, their paths always crossed. And each time they did, the silence between them grew heavier. The night everything shifted, the mansion was unusually quiet. Most of the staff had retired early. The lights were dim, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Kate stayed behind in the sitting room, cleaning slowly, lost in her thoughts. That was when she felt it. That presence. Her hands paused. She didn't need to turn to know it was him. But she did anyway. Donald stood by the doorway, his figure half hidden in shadow. His eyes locked onto hers instantly. "You're still awake," he said, his voice low. "So are you," she replied before she could stop herself. A dangerous reply. The kind that usually came with consequences. But none came. Instead, he stepped closer. The air changed. Something unspoken passed between them, something neither of them could name, but both understood. "You should be careful," he said quietly. "Of what?" she asked. His gaze darkened slightly. "Me." The word hung in the air between them. Kate's heart pounded, but she didn't move. And neither did he. Until the space between them disappeared. After that night, nothing was the same. They didn't talk about it. Didn't explain it. Didn't stop it. It became something else. Something unspoken. A glance across a crowded room that lasted a second too long. A moment in a quiet hallway where neither of them walked away. A silence that held more meaning than words ever could. Kate told herself it was a mistake, that it wouldn't happen again. But it did. Again and again. And each time, it became harder to pretend it meant nothing. Donald, on the other hand, found himself losing something he had spent years building. Control. He watched her more than he should, not openly, but enough. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. The way she bit her lip when she was thinking. The way she carried herself like she belonged somewhere better than this place. It irritated him. Because he didn't understand it. And things he didn't understand made him dangerous. Donald's past was not something he shared. Not with his men. Not with his allies. Not with anyone. But Kate saw glimpses of it. In the way his jaw tightened when certain names were mentioned. In the way his eyes darkened when he thought no one was watching. In the quiet moments when he seemed distant. One night she asked, "What happened to you?" The question was soft. Careful. But it hit harder than anything else ever had. Donald didn't answer immediately. He turned away, walking toward the window that overlooked the city. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, "My father believed fear was the only way to control people," he said. Kate stayed silent. He wasn't wrong. There was no emotion in his voice. But something in the way he stood said everything. "And love?" she asked quietly. He let out a faint, almost bitter breath. "Love is a liability." Kate looked at him differently after that. Not with fear, but with understanding. And somehow, that made things even more complicated. The tension didn't stay hidden for long. In a world like Donald's, nothing did. The staff began to notice. The way his attention shifted when Kate entered a room. The way she avoided looking at him, but always seemed aware of him. Whispers started. Quiet at first, then louder. And eventually, someone important heard them. The party was grand. A gathering of powerful people, dressed in elegance and influence. The kind of night where alliances were formed and destroyed. Kate moved carefully through the crowd, doing her job, until she felt a hand stop her. She turned. The woman standing before her was stunning, perfectly dressed, perfectly poised. And cold. "You must be Kate," the woman said, her voice smooth. Kate nodded slowly. "I've heard about you." Something about the way she said it felt wrong. "I'm Jayon," she continued, "Donald's future wife." The words hit like a quiet storm. Kate's chest tightened. The woman stepped closer. "You should be careful," she said softly. "Men like Donald don't keep things like you for long." A pause. Then, "Know your place." Laughter echoed nearby. And for the first time, Kate felt small. Donald saw everything. The way Kate's expression changed. The way she stood still, absorbing the words. The way the room seemed to close in around her. And still, he didn't move. Because moving meant acknowledging something he wasn't ready to face. But that silence cost him. Kate left that night. Quietly. No confrontation. No explanation. Just gone. And for the first time in years, Donald felt something unfamiliar. Regret. Weeks passed. Kate tried to rebuild her life. Tried to forget the mansion, the tension, the man she should have never gotten close to. But forgetting wasn't easy. Not when her body reminded her every day. The signs were small at first, then undeniable. The truth settled heavily in her chest. Pregnant. She sat alone in her small apartment, staring at the test in her hands. Her mind raced. Fear, confusion, uncertainty. But beneath it all, something else. A quiet, growing attachment. Before she could decide what to do, her past caught up with her. Not her past. Donald's. They came at night. Men she didn't recognize, faces cold, intentions clear. Kate didn't have time to react. Only time to realize one thing. She had never truly escaped his world. And neither had the child she carried. When Donald found out, everything changed. The city felt smaller, tighter, like it was closing in on him. He didn't think, didn't plan. He acted. And when Donald Kim acted without control, there were consequences. For everyone. By the time he found her, the damage had been done. Kate was shaken, but alive. And that was all that mattered. For the first time, Donald didn't hide what he felt. Not behind power. Not behind silence. "I thought I lost you," he said. Kate looked at him, her eyes filled with emotion. "You were never supposed to find me again," she whispered. "I know," he replied. A pause. Then, "I don't want to lose you again." The words were simple, but they carried everything he had never said before. Kate's heart tightened. "Your world is dangerous," she said. "So is living without you." Silence. Then slowly, she stepped closer. And for the first time, it wasn't a cycle. It wasn't something they fell into. It was a choice. And this time, they chose each other. If this story kept you hooked, then you're in the right place. Subscribe now for more Mafia romance, billionaire secrets, and emotional stories filled with twists you'll never see coming. And tell me in the comments, would you have stayed or walked away?